In a comment about the now infamous interview between Jordan Peterson and Cathy Newman, Peterson has said that he thinks Newman was taken over by animus possession.
Yeah, well, I would say technically, and might be interesting for people who are interested in Jungian psychology, if you want to understand what Carl Jung meant by animus possession, which is a very difficult concept, then that interview was a textbook case of having a discussion with someone who is animus possessed. And I can't explain what that means because it's very complicated, but if you go and read Jung and you read about animus possession and you need a demonstration of it so that that you get a sense of what it means, then that interview is exactly indicative of that.
So what does it mean? In this video, we're going to explain the concept of animus possession. In doing so, we're not implying that we agree with it. We're just trying to elucidate what Peterson is referring to. In Jungian psychology, the animus is the unconscious male element of a woman, just as the anima is the unconscious female element of a man. The anima and animus are archetypes in the collective unconscious. Both men and women can be possessed by this oppositely gendered archetype at times, though Jung believed it was more common for women to be possessed by their animus than for a man to be possessed by their anima. According to Jung, when men are possessed by their anima, they become more imaginative, synthesizing and sensitive to emotions, and when women are possessed by their animus, they become more logical, opinionated, hard-headed and standoffish. Jung had some very definite ideas about gender roles that we would today call sexist. And again, we're not saying we agree with these ideas, we're just explaining Jung's theory. He believed that the natural role for women was to be sensitive, in touch with instinct, the state of the world and nature. When the animus takes over a woman, she blocks off these qualities in herself in order to identify with logic and the intellect. Since this state is not natural for a woman, it also has the consequence of making her self-estranged, combative, unbalanced, unhappy and ungrounded. That is why a woman in the grip of animus possession will always carry an undertone of the reproachful hurt woman in her expressions.
No, I'm not saying it doesn't matter either.
You're saying
I'm saying there are multiple reasons for it.
Yeah, but those reasons, why should women put up with those reasons?
The usual male reaction when a man is confronted with a woman undergoing animus possession is to be combative right back, to beat the would-be man at a male game that many men feel is their territory. That is also one reason why debates between feminists and anti-feminists tend to be so uniquely futile. Neither party is arguing on the basis of the points voiced. They're fighting for basic dominance and the masculine territory. In Jungian theory, what the man confronted with a woman undergoing animus possession should do is to recognize that her combative facade is really a disguised appeal for love and acceptance. In being possessed by the animus, she has become self-estranged and hurt. This is also why the aggression voiced by women undergoing animus possession tends to carry undertones of confusion and desperation. What a man should do in such a situation is therefore not engage the woman's aggression head-on, but rather to attempt to speak beyond the animus in order to reach the true feminine personality inside of her. That is also what Peterson alludes to when he says,
She had in fact done nothing except try to make me uncomfortable, that calling her on it left her speechless. And then that was the only time, I would say, when I actually spoke to the genuine human being.
Now we happen to think Peterson is right when he says that the correct strategy for him was to avoid engaging Newman on the aggressive terms set forth by her. And if you watch the interview, it is pretty obvious that he manages to connect with the real person that lies beyond her aggressive facade at times. However, the Jungian model is not the only way to explain this phenomenon. In feminist theory, there is a concept called internalized oppression, which holds that oppressed parties are more likely to internalize the constricting stereotypes in society. Instead of men oppressing women directly from the outside, women internalize the expectations of men and become their own oppressors, so to speak. For example, a smart but sensitive woman may have observed that hard-headed men are more liable to land jobs than women and feel forced to make a decision. Either she'll have to toughen up and act like a man, or she'll have to give up all aspirations of a high-powered career completely, identifying solely with her feminine side. In her own way, this is also what Newman alludes to when she says,
I might as well just go and play with my Cindy dolls and give up trying at school because I'm not going to get the top job I want.
So anyway, this is what Peterson alludes to when he speaks of the Cathy Newman interview as a prime example of animus possession. To the psychologically aware viewer, there is no doubt that he identified the dynamics of that interview correctly. But, as we have seen, animus possession is not the only way to explain those dynamics. Feminist theory has a bid for them as well. Finally, both parties also agree that since men are more disagreeable, men have a natural advantage when it comes to landing top jobs in the corporate world. But while feminists such as Newman suggest that the corporate world should give up such quote-unquote male values as dominance and disagreeableness, Peterson argues that these are helpful dispositions with regards to organisation and leadership. Here, Peterson has the evidence on his side, since multivariate analyses tend to reveal that it's not so much a person's gender, but rather their level of agreeableness that determines their success in this field. And also, economic theory would suggest that if feminine traits such as agreeableness and empathy were as helpful in large organisations as dominance and aggression, then firms that adopted female values would outcompete the firms that ran on male values, since those environments would, by and large, be more pleasant to work in. That, so far, hasn't happened.